It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
Hello and welcome. He is Gary McNamara. I'm Eric Harley. The calendar now says Thursday, so I guess that's what we're doing. Gary, how are you?
I'm doing really good. Blessed to be here. I was driving when I was coming in. I'm like, man, I can't believe I've done this for such a long time. And I thought to myself, I've lived my dream. And my dream was always to be in radio. And in 3 weeks, it's 35 years. I complete 35 years in talk radio. And I passed 42 years overall in radio in July. And I was just driving in thinking, my God, am I ever blessed?
I have grandchildren now that are older than when I started my radio career.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wait, you have grandchildren that are
older now than when I was when I started my radio career.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, that's amazing. My youngest daughter is now just a year younger than I was when I started this job.
And you know what it was? I was driving in just scanning and, just scanning stations as I always do and don't even know what it was.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, Joe Jackson Stepping Out, remember that song?
Mm-hmm.
Came on and I went, wow. Because I know exactly where I was and I went, damn, I can't believe I actually survived in this business that this long.
Yeah.
I mean, how did... And I just and the rest of the day, the rest of the drive in was just going, man, I'm blessed. Mm-hmm. I'm so blessed to be able to do this because we've talked about it before. I was talking with a friend of mine yesterday. We were talking about being celebrity, and this was all based on the whole Dave Grohl admitting from the Foo Fighters that he basically got a woman pregnant,
mm-hmm.
Cheated on his wife.
Mm-hmm.
And, all that stuff and talking to a friend of mine, and we were just going back and forth on it. And she said, celebrity can do it to you. And I said, well, anything can do it to you. I said, you get to control what you do.
Well, that's the thing is that if you are of that mind, there are a number of rock stars and comedians and famous people that say, and, I don't have any evidence otherwise, that's never happened, but they talk about how, and it doesn't even matter that you're a rock star or a known person. It happens to people, and when someone sends that signal, you either respond or you don't. I mean, it's a two-way street.
Right. I said, look, you get to control what you control in life no matter what you do. It's
mm-hmm.
like, the paparazzi.
Right.
And I'll never forget, it was, I think, Beverly Johnson, the supermodel, who's from outside Buffalo.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, how do you get away from all the hoopla? She goes, I go to Buffalo. Nobody cares.
Well, I'll tell you.
There is no paparazzi in Buffalo. And Johnny Resnick from the Goo Goo Dolls said the same thing. He said, if you want to get away from it, he goes, you can get away from paparazzi, just don't be where the paparazzi are.
Well, you also have to know how they're disguised. In my case, in my neighborhood, they're disguised as small children walking to school, post office workers, trees and squirrels. I mean, they have some very sophisticated disguises, but I avoid all of them.
But the entire point is I never did this because we got into talking about celebrity and I said, I never did this. Got a great conversation I had with a friend of mine, and she was asking, just about that. And I said, there were 3 different stations that I worked with, 2 talk stations and 1 music station that did massive TV.
Mm-hmm.
And, for me with my face all over the place. I didn't like it.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't like going places and people recognizing you, and it would always catch me off guard because someone would sit there and they'd be, hey, whatever, and people looking at me. I'm like, what are you looking at? You're Gary McNamara. I'm like, oh God, it's like, and I went, and when I got on, probably working with you for about 4 or 5 years, and the thing that's different is when I was on during the day, even, here in Texas, during the busy season, you were doing 3 or 4 public events a week. You were
mm-hmm.
always out everywhere you were meeting people left and right.
Mm-hmm.
You really don't here because of the schedule.
It's very schedule is the schedule and also kind of the scale of it too. We've been asked a number of times to be on TV programs and everything else.
Yeah.
It's just we can't. A lot of those TV programs, at least one or two of them, back when they asked us, were pre-taping the shows that they were pre-recording the shows that they wanted us to be on. And even then, it's like when you're recording, your recording session is timed right when we're asleep. So, you can't do that.
Yeah, and I'll never forget another friend of mine when I was on with you for a few years, and I was talking to her, and she said, it was an old girlfriend who said, I know you, and you got exactly what you want in your life. I said, what are you talking about? She said, you've got millions of listeners and almost total anonymity. Well, and I went, oh my God, you do know me, because you and I talk about this. I went into radio and I stayed in radio because I love the process. I love doing this. I love being able to get on and just express myself. There was a romance to it when I first got interested in radio, which people ask me all the time, how'd you get interested in being in radio? How did that happen? And I'll tell you, it was the Clint Buellman on the station I ended up working on in Buffalo, WBEN. Clint Buellman was the morning guy for years. I think he was on after Jack Parr, because I think Jack Parr was also and then Clint Buellman was there, and he was on for like 30, 35 years. And it was the school closings. Yeah. And I said, that's the coolest job in the world, because I wanted off of school, and I sat by that radio. And when he said, the Kenton School District doesn't have school, that was one of the best moments of my childhood. And that's what got me interested. And I went, and I started thinking, what a great job that is to do that. And so it's always been the process for, for us. And I know you're the same way. We love the process. We love when we communicate something effectively.
I want to do work that is appreciated and thoughtful. That makes a connection with some people. I don't need to be. I certainly don't want to be. It's interesting you talk about with local radio. You have to be out there all the time.
Yeah.
And I started in a town of about 120,000 people. And you were on TV a lot. And it's not that anybody was going to bother you. There's no paparazzi. It's not anything. It's just that you kind of want to go about your business when you're doing your business, when you're running errands, whatever, and people are very nice and very generous. But on this level, at this show, we don't. It's just a great opportunity to be able to do the work and also have, something that's really great.
It is. It really is. Now, I will say one thing. When you first start in radio, especially if you're doing a lot of local media, because a lot of local media will cover you, especially if you're on talk shows, and plus the commercials. Because I worked at 2 talk stations that did massive commercials. I'll never forget the one station did it where my face was so big because it covered the entire screen. I went, we should have moved the camera back a little bit.
Billboards.
It's like,
I hated that. It's the only way to make my head bigger. And I don't mean in the proverbial sense. I mean literally bigger. My massive skull. It's like, we're going to do, that's a life-size pick, Eric. That's not even, we didn't even blow that up.
What it did do, though, is it definitely kept me out of bars, especially when you're in talk radio. Walk into a bar, drunk guy, you're that idiot on the air. Well, better go. Why? Because what you learn very, very early when you do this for a living, you can never win an argument and you can never win the situation if you walk into a bar and somebody is drunk. You do not get into an argument. You turn around and you walk out because it's impossible to win. Now, you can win the argument. But that doesn't matter if they take a swing at you. And it becomes a crazy time. I had the most well-known I remember. I remember walking into, and it was when all my golfing buddies hung out. And I walked in there, and we were having a discussion. Everybody knew who I was at the bar, and the one guy was just really drunk. And we were talking about elections. And I said, there is, there's a right to vote, but there is no right to vote for the president, which there isn't. I mean, all the states have it set up where the people end up voting for it. But as you know, in the Constitution, the legislatures could do it if they wish to. But that's not the case. Well, this guy he just heard there's no right to. Who the hell are you to say there's no right to vote? No. What I meant was I don't want to hear an explanation. You communist. I'm like, bye. It's like you're not going to win that one.
Yeah.
But it's a right to vote, by the way, in every other election. The right to vote absolutely exists. But when it comes to the president, the Constitution sets up a number of ways.
Right.
So,
I mean, you in some states you have that right for eternity, even beyond death, which we focus on Illinois usually when we're talking about that.
Yes.
More specifically, Chicago.
Right. There's they don't believe in right to life, but right to vote after death.
After you're dead.
So, no, that was just a quick thought. But interesting day yesterday, and the only question I really asked you in our pre-show meeting, and I don't know if I was really a question or sort of a statement or a statement question, said, did you notice yesterday how everything started moving and softening from the left as to the incredible victory that she had yesterday, or that she had during the debate,
right.
talking about Kamala Harris?
Right. It went quiet pretty quick.
And it was interesting how, when we had said early on yesterday, we said, look, I think a lot of the polling of the people, because you had, and we had stated this, you had conservatives, and we talked a lot about this yesterday, that just said, he lost.
Yeah.
Because she could put two sentences together. She proved that after a couple of weeks that she could put a couple of sentences together, not really under any type of cross-examination, but she could put it together, and Trump went down a couple of rabbit holes that drives many conservatives and many Republicans nuts. And I think there's actually an extra sensitivity to it right now because so many Republicans view this because of what the Democrats want to do as an election that they have to win. Because if you don't win it, the Democrats wish to pack the Supreme Court. The Democrats wish, as we know, to lessen free speech rights, to lessen freedom of religion rights. They don't want the Electoral College. They don't believe in the Senate. They want to move much more to a pure democracy type of government. The lawfare that has happened, that we have seen, scares the daylights out of so many Republicans. And so there's a big seriousness right now that they might not even like Trump, but they know that he's got to win. They believe he's got to win.
Well, yeah, we're at that critical stage. Again, nothing is in the abstract anymore on the issues. It's the reality. And I think many of the conservatives believe like I do, and I've been saying it for a long time now, we're at a crossroads. And I don't say that with just, that's the hyperbole of an election cycle. I really do believe that if we're not going to fix this insanity, this radical behavior now, if we're not going to correct what's going on with the economy, if we're not going to close the border and get things straight there, if we're not going to make an effort to point out who the radicals are in our society and turn them into pariahs, then we're not ever going to do it. If we're not going to do it now, we won't ever get it done.
And so there's an extra sensitivity. What nobody figured out was the undecided independents are in a completely different world than many of the conservative political pundits. Yeah. And that's why we started out saying, look, the debate's not for me and it's not for you. And we started seeing what was coming out. We saw the CNN poll that showed, okay, that she won by a big margin. Right. You and I both said, well, that part of that's a reaction from conservatives who just said he could have done better, he should have done better. They believe, and I understand why. I can agree with it, that she should be politically buried because what she is doing has never really been tried by any candidate, which is I'm going to try to take both positions, talk differently to different audiences, never answer a specific question, never explain anything. And conservatives and Republicans are furious. They believe that's an easy win, and they don't believe Trump did it. But On the other hand, independents already know who Trump is. And it's a much simpler mindset, which is the economy was better. What is she going to do? She didn't explain it. They didn't care if Trump went down any rabbit holes. They didn't care. They know who Trump is. They've accepted, they go, look, the guy did great with the economy, and we think, yeah, he's a little eclectic in his personality in certain different ways.
Right.
of what, of the things he explains. But I don't care about that. I care about over here. And that's what I think you saw yesterday was that narrative of independents out there and independent undecideds that was really, I think, freaking out a lot of people. And then you're seeing, the Nate Silver poll that, he's still fine. The Rasmussen poll came out for the full day yesterday, which he was up 5 points in that one. You had the Democracy Express poll that came out that showed that people believe that Trump won after thinking about it. And really, as we said, will we be talking about this on Monday? And I don't believe we will be. We've always used that thing. Well, if something that happens, and it's almost as if the superficial is what she won on, not the substance.
Right.
And the superficial always goes away after a couple of days.
And you'll see something, I believe, on the Sunday morning news shows, and that is it's an obligation. They're going to have to cover it on the Sunday morning news shows. But the way they cover it, I think, is going to be and I think that's going to be it, because they realize she did not make a connection with people. Trump's a known quantity. She's still, right now, people are in the dark about her, and that isn't good. And they know that. The media knows that.
And that's what I think caught a lot of people by surprise.
Yeah.
We'll talk more. 866-90-RED-EYE.
This report is brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology, is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance. Did you know that up to half of all major engine failures are due to poor cooling system maintenance? That's a lot of downtime and can cost drivers big. You expect a lot from your engine, which is why the cooling system must be a part of your maintenance routine. Here's a tip to keep your cooling system in shape and your engine running smooth. Have the system properly flushed whenever the coolant is changed. Over time, contaminants from seals, oil, and fuel are released into the system and must be removed. And remember, flushing the system with the right coolant mix and water dilution is crucial. If you have coolant questions or need an expert to help flush your system, have your cooling system inspected by a professional technician.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. And you could see it yesterday, even on CNN. I know that Jake Tapper was going, she didn't answer anything. And that's what independents were saying, the independents that we were playing on the show yesterday. And we asked this simple question because we've never been, unless it was obvious, like, the Biden debate where it was just so bad. It was just immediately, you were like, okay, and that was because of his cognitive abilities. We've always asked the question, what does a win mean? Now, for us, a win means that you beat somebody on policy considerations. But I don't know what the majority of people think when they say, for example, Kamala Harris won the debate, except for the fact that she's been so bad that because she put two sentences together, well, then she won the debate because the expectations are so low for Democrats and so high for Republicans. We'll get to more of that coming up.
You're a threat to democracy if you don't download our app, Red Eye Radio.
It's Run On Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. And so still yesterday, Erica, the same thing. I was observing and going, okay, what does a win mean? What did she win on? Is anybody in the media talking about the fact that what was the issue that she beat Trump on? You never heard it.
Nope. That's where the liberal media has to break it down. We're not in the era of Obama anymore. Remember when Evan Thomas? He hovers like a god. Shut up.
The D-Day.
And I don't want it. I don't want it on the other side either. These are people that are looking to be public servants. Yeah. Let's be clear about what they're trying to do, what they want to do, and also what we want them to do. There's the biggest problem. People can't figure out what they want a president to do or be because they don't understand the roles of government, the three branches of government. It's become, and people throw around the whole cult of personality thing. Now, it's far beyond that. That was 2008. This now is just people being delusional.
Well, I think what you saw, because we asked the question, just to give background on it, in case you didn't hear yesterday's show, that's the question we asked. What issue did she win on? And we said, look, any Democrat, feel free. And, if you want to email us, tell us what issue, with the major issues out there, did she win on? We only got one guy who claimed to be an independent, but clearly he was not. You don't have to sit there and say you're an independent. If you're a Democrat and wish to talk to us, that's fine.
Yeah, right.
That's fine. And he was fine. I mean, it was no problem. Sure. But he wasn't yelling at us, and he simply said, "Well, we didn't believe that he was an independent because he used the exact talking points that you would get from a Democrat, which was he said that she won on protecting democracy, Project 2025, and what was the other one?
Unity, bringing
January
people together.
6th. January 6th.
Yeah.
And we just said, nope, none of those are major issues.
The guy that called,
yeah,
he also said bringing people together, which when you hear that's a liberal talking. We need someone who can bring people together. Okay. I don't want to bring people together. I don't have any middle ground with people who want to cut off the genitals of adolescents and children. There is no together on that one. This is the insanity now that where we're at. What's
the compromise?
Where's the compromise?
What's the compromise on that one? Well, don't cut off the whole thing.
Right. There is no compromise. You can't compromise with that kind of insanity.
No, you can't.
That kind of radicalism. The anti-Semitism. I have zero common ground with you if you're an anti-Semite. Mm-hmm. I have none.
And don't try to, and yes, we now have coined the phrase, compassionate Jew-hating.
Yeah.
Compassionate anti-Semitism.
Yeah. And you can take your pragmatism and shove it. Bernie
Sanders. That's two things this week. We came up with, we figured that out when Bernie Sanders, said, well, no, she doesn't believe these things. She's just being pragmatic in order to win the election. And we went, wow, pragmatic now means line.
Pragmatic.
Pragmatic means line. I mean, they're and we expect it because they change definitions all the time. So pragmatic now means line. And with her giving the same, Israel narrative as Biden. We defend Israel's right to protect themselves, but they have to stop the killing, and we need a two-state solution. Well, that's compassionate anti-Semitism.
Yeah.
That's compassionate Jew-hating.
I'm going to try that next time. My wife comes home and sees that I've another guitar has arrived. Why did you buy another guitar? Honey, I just want to be pragmatic about this. It was given to me by the band Aerosmith as a parting gift. It's just so stupid.
Look, I know you're compassionate racism, compassionate anti-Semitism.
Yeah.
I know you. I know you have different color skin than I do, but I defend your right to protect yourself. But I'm going to take your gun away from you.
Right. Exactly. And by the way, when I say I'm going to take the gun away from you, nobody's going to take the gun away from you. I mean, they'll just say it and then reverse it immediately. This is the BS. Almost said the words. This is what we have been putting up with. And if you've been putting up with it and you're okay with that, you're part of the problem of where we are. You deserve to be paying more than necessary for food, gasoline, and you deserve to be the victim of a broken border, generally speaking, when if you believe that people should be doing something about it, don't cry.
I think I believe what we might have seen yesterday, and I say that I qualify it that way because I can't tell what's in every person's head, but it seems to me that the independents out there, and it surprised a lot of people. And one of the first things when we got on the air, we said, "What's going on here? Look at the CNN, quick poll that was done, which is a regular poll. It wasn't an online poll." And thank you to the guy who showed us the online poll that was an online poll that showed Trump up, won the debate 76% to 20%, and we explained, well, that actually that's an online poll. That's not a random scientific poll. Now,
right, methodology is extremely different.
Right, extremely different, and he thanked us for it. So but it's important to know that because we're not trying to take one poll and say it's the be end all, the
end all be all.
End all be all. Thank you. What I say? The be all end all.
The be end all.
Hey, I was just being pragmatic.
Well, I think there was a store at one time called Bed Bath and Beyond. I'm pretty sure that was the name of it. Was it? I forget. I could be wrong.
But I think I suspect what we saw yesterday is exactly what we have been saying. Why this election is different than any other election, and that is because the narrative of the left has always been hypothetical. The debate, in fact, has been hypothetical. If we spend more money, this will happen. This will happen. Well, they've spent all the money, and the opposite happened.
Right.
What has gone on is liberal rhetoric and especially liberal economic lies. And now you can go into, the cultural lies. Oh, a man can be a woman if a man says so. And it's like, shut up. And minors should be able to make the decision to have their privates cut off. Shut up. But it's gone to the point of reality. Reality has finally hit the liberal arguments. And so it's not just the rhetoric. You said it. This is not 2008 anymore.
No.
People
totally
don't.
Different era.
People don't care. There is no, well, she's a black and a woman. Well, she's got to be the one from Independence. It's like, what's she going to do to help me? Because I'm barely surviving right now. And
I think the liberals are confounded as to why that didn't work, why the identity politics thing didn't work for her. By the way, they all know it. They know why it didn't work. But I think they're confounded as to what to do about the fact that it doesn't work anymore. And it doesn't work. Obama, smartest guy in the room. Depends on what room you're in, I guess. Yeah.
Kindergarten room. And we
single stall bathroom. I don't know.
And by the way, we say that not because we are politically opposed to him or because he has different skin color.
No, we say it because we hate kindergartners.
We go to that specifically. The best example we have given, there's many, but the best one is when he said he clearly showed he had no understanding of economics. There were 2 points. Remember where he talked about the fact that you didn't build that.
Right.
That you may be in business, you may be a company, but the roads and bridges were built by the government. It's like you're completely clueless. He showed his complete ignorance of how economics works because the government pays for nothing.
Right.
The only reason that charities exist, the only reason that there's money for the government, the only reason is companies making legit profits.
Yep.
That's it.
Without the profits, none of it is funded.
And
so the businesses come first. There is no chicken or the egg.
It was Joe Kernan we played. Who was it? Joe Kernan. It was on CNBC.
Yeah,
they had the one.
Who was he talking to? Yeah,
it was one. Harris aide that was saying, well, no, the taxes are paid for by individuals and by companies.
Right.
Yeah, but the individuals, unless they're in business, rely on the company making a profit in order for them to make a profit.
Right.
Everything goes back to the company.
Right.
And she was trying to say, well, no, the economy and the jobs are mostly created by the government right now. Yeah, that's the problem.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the problem. And she seemed to be clueless, and Obama was completely clueless. Remember the other thing about ATMs?
Yeah, right.
The ATM thing?
Yeah, they're taking all the banking jobs.
Yeah, just like, wow.
Yeah, right.
Just
and then telling, I forget which university it was, a commencement speech, don't go getting into computers and whatnot. And we took that as, hey, don't go fact-checking us and whatnot after you leave here. And
then his climate change when he was over in Africa.
Yeah, so,
by the way, we got to stop this because I only wanted to give one example to make a point.
It's linked. It's everything. It's like one of those little games you play, and all of a sudden all the colors, get lined up. It's all red, it's all blue, and then all of a sudden they all fall, all the chips fall, all the tiles fall. It's like one of those online games you play. And because it's all connected, that mindset, he turns around to say goodbye to all the nations of Africa and says, by the way, before I get on this giant plane that was made for just one person, you guys don't need to go getting cars and building houses and air conditioning and all
in
that.
In Africa!
Because the seas will boil over. The oceans we've already done it, and we need ours. You can't have yours.
Yes. Oh, my God. That was absolutely unbelievable. I
mean,
it showed, it showed that he was not the smartest person in the world. But he was, you look at it, he was complete imagery.
Yeah.
Obama was complete imagery. And as Chris Matthews said early on, he didn't like the gig. He liked the celebrity part of it. But he didn't like the gig. He didn't want to talk. He didn't want to get things. He just expected things to happen.
And, there is no real rock star for the Democrats right now. There isn't.
No.
And she's certainly not it. By the way, Colin Quinn brought that whole thing up of Obama saying that in Africa in one of his stand-up specials. I was really shocked when I heard it. I was like, wow. Whoa. Heard it on the radio.
But I think what happened yesterday is reality's hitting.
Yeah.
And people want to know what you're actually going to do.
Right.
Rhetoric isn't enough. Trump doesn't have to answer what he's going to do because people say, no, he did it. My life was better. So I know he can do it. You got to explain yourself. And I think that so many conservative, political people in the media didn't see that.
Right.
They didn't see that. And that's why they're still furious at Trump. Oh, he went down rabbit. Doesn't matter. The independents don't care what Trump thinks. They don't care if he goes down a rabbit hole. All they know is he made their life better.
Yep.
She's got to explain how she's going to do it and separate herself from the administration that made our life worse.
Right. And that's impossible.
866-90 Red Eye.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Now, as we had said yesterday, we wish that Trump, and by the way, this is on Trump. It's not on the RNC. This is all on Trump and his campaign, that they should have, I think, fought harder to get two debates and one on Fox. And he could have. He still can do it. He can still say, if she comes out and says, I want to do another debate, which they said. And I saw Fox and Friends yesterday. The president was on, and they said, well, we've offered to do it. with Brett Baer, and he goes, I don't want Brett Baer or McCallum. I don't want either of those. I'm thinking to myself, that had to be driving conservatives nuts. You don't want them, but you wanted ABC? You agreed to that one?
Yeah.
It's like, and there is stuff that, that can drive you nuts at times about Trump. But the fact is, independents don't care. Well, what we've seen over the last 24 hours, they don't care. They're not in the point anymore saying we want the person that's the smoothest and has that has that imagery.
Right.
We want somebody who's going to get the stuff done. We don't care about anything else. Get the job done. Do DTJ.
The job.
Do the
there
job.
You go.
Top of the Hour News is brought to you by House Products. Visit houseproducts.com.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Thank you so much for being here this morning.
Thank you.
Thank you. How's everybody doing? We made it to a Thursday here.
We did. Crazy.
And it's interesting because everything sort of went how everything has gone in this campaign, whether it's Biden or whether it's Kamala Harris. Is that there's a great deal of hype for everything. And you look at it and you go, okay, but this is really just there is no substance here. And that's why one of the first things out of the box we said yesterday was, well, wait a minute. What issue did she win on?
Right.
What issue did she win on? It was that simple. What did she explain to you? When it got to the point, I think I saved it here to actually look at the headline, because the New York Times went out and, to talk to independents in 5 states. And let me get to exactly what it was. Here's the headline. Pundits say Harris won the debate. Undecided voters weren't so sure. And everything was about, what is she going to do different? What is she going to do different? And one of the consistent themes was she hasn't separated herself from Biden, which means what? Nobody believes she's pro-fracking. Nobody, and I'm not talking about conservatives or Republicans. The undecided don't believe it because they said, she hasn't separated herself from Biden. Well, she said she's pro-fracking. She said that. Well, you know what the problem is? She's now going to be tough around the border. But you know what the problem is? She keeps consistently saying she hasn't changed any of her values. So it doesn't matter what he says. I still stick. Biden was right. I still stay with it. You can't have it both ways. People are looking and go, well, you're saying you're this way, but then you're saying that you've changed, but you don't explain why you've changed.
Exactly.
Biden did the same thing when he ran. That was a narrative that came out from independents, and he said he was a uniter and he was bringing people together. He did the opposite.
Right.
Everything was the opposite of what he said he was going to do, that he was going to be. He was put in there because he was perceived to be the moderate, and he's the most radical leftist president we've ever had, that independents look at and say, you cause the inflation. Well, you're right underneath him, and you're telling us you're different, but you haven't changed your values. And so far, every time you've been asked, you support what the Biden administration has did, you haven't said no.
Yeah, there's that, and then the question of, all right, and we were talking earlier about it. We always, all right, will people be talking about this by Monday? And my gosh, the question is, are they going to be talking about it by Friday? It seems like it just went away. One thing that I saw, and this was, I want to see what the timestamp was. I don't have an actual time as to when this was posted at the New York Times yesterday. Here's the headline, and there's a picture of Trump standing on a carpeted floor. This is in the media spin room. And here's the headline from the New York Times. Trump walked into the media spin room himself after the debate. Subheadline, it was an unusual move for a presidential candidate. You're not, the point being, when I saw that, it was like, okay, I'll read it later. But the fact that the way the headline was written, it's like, whoa, he walked in to the spin room. She's been running from the media, and I think the liberal media, this was written by Michael Gold at the New York Times, reporting from Philadelphia where they had the debate. And I think the liberal media is looking at this going, all right, I think they were hoping, okay, they fixed the problem. She can put two sentences together. Now we're all going to have access to the campaign. Now we're all going to get right up there, up close and personal. No reason to believe that. In fact, you and I said it. We believe she'll be at a distance, with the exception of a possible second debate between Trump and Harris. I don't think you're going to see much of her except on the campaign trail. That's just the way it's going to be. Trump is not afraid to talk to the media. We said it during his first term. And for our liking, sometimes it's to a fault. We think, all right, you don't have to stop and talk to him every time. But there is no way you can say that he runs from the media. With all of the things that he says that may have you cringe or go, I wish he wouldn't have said that. Or for liberals, pretty much everything he says that you disagree with or don't want him to say, you can't say he's afraid of the media. And she is. What you saw night before last was a very over-rehearsed, the whole, you pointed it out, the hand under the chin thing. You know what that is? That's the picture, you know, I don't know if Hillary still has it, but her pic on X, back in the day, Twitter, was one of those weird pics where she's looking off, you know, in the distance to the right, one of those weird studio pictures that families take. Nobody knows what they're looking at. They're not looking at the camera. They're looking off to the right or left. That's that kind of fake kind of imagery where she's doing the Willy Wonka meme moment live on the debate stage, and it's stupid. Nobody buys it. There's the other thing, too. Who in the hell are the debate coaches right now in American politics? Trump clearly doesn't have one. But, again, people are okay with that. They would, right now, I believe, we're more in the territory of, you know what? Okay, he didn't do it the way I wanted him to, but you know what? I know who he is. I know what he can do. And I can price all of that in. With her, it still seems like this weird contrived thing that not even Hollywood would try and make up.
You know who Trump is now? By how independents are looking at him right now. Trump, can we do, since it's football season, can we do a football analogy?
Why
and
not?
It's got nothing to do with Colin Kaepernick.
Okay, all right.
Trump is that wide receiver who says stupid and dumb things at the podium that drive you crazy. And by the way, I'm not making a direct analogy between a particular wide receiver and the president. I'm not saying they're saying. I'm just saying he's like the wide receiver that drives you crazy, that you say is too selfish. He always wants the ball. He's causing dissension in the locker room, but he always catches touchdowns.
Yeah, right.
And you realize after a couple of years, yeah, but, you know, we had such a better team when he was here.
Right.
And now he's gone with another team, and we're not having the success that we had before. And by the way, this has got nothing to do with the Buffalo Bills and Stephon Diggs now in Houston. I want to make that clear. I was not making that analogy, and it wasn't even a Tyreek Hill comment either.
Right.
I'm just using it in general. It could be a running back.
Right,
you know,
sure.
or a quarterback that you're just oh, just shut up, whatever.
Yeah, right.
But they produce, and that's what's happening. Is Trump's already been in office? He's a known quantity.
Yeah,
and that's the thing. And so everything else, it's like I don't care. I don't care if you say I don't care. And you have so many conservative political pundits, because I understood where they were yesterday. Did you read National Review yesterday? They're just pounding on Trump, and I'm like, they don't get it. And I respect the writers of National Review. I think they do a great job.
Yeah.
But on this case, I'm like, they just don't get it. And I know this because everyone knows that you and I will go after Trump if he does something stupid.
We've been there.
You know how it's driven us nuts.
Oh, yeah.
Before going, God, doesn't he want to win? But you have to look at where you are right now.
You got to look at the forest. I mean,
Right.
that's the thing. Nobody. And when you're that close to the game, when you're that close, when you're Burgess Meredith, in the corner, you're watching every shot. You're watching every, bob and weave. You're watching the footwork. You're watching everything, and you're going, no, come on, fix this, fix this, fix this. When you back up, the crowd is cheering.
Yeah, the crowd's cheering for Rocky, but then you go to the corner and Burgess Meredith, do it again.
Come on, Rocky. You're going to be eating lightning and crapping thunder. As an old guy, I have a question about this. As an old guy, how much antacid would you have to take? That's the first thing that comes to my mind when that quote comes up. It's like, wow, that sounds unsettling. I'm not going to sleep if I do that.
We need to be very careful here how we phrase this because the FCC, one of the things they're still sticklers about is talking about the bodily functions of excrement.
Uh-huh. All right.
So we need to be very careful there.
Yeah, what's the FCC stand for again? What is that?
Federal Comedy Commission.
The funny comedy crew. Hey!
Oh, wait a minute. Hold it. We don't have to worry about it. We're not the radio stations. We don't work for the radio stations anymore. We're syndicated.
Yeah.
This is all on them. We can say whatever we want.
So to repeat for all of our station managers who may be listening in the middle of the night, it's not our problem. Oh.
For people that don't know it, that's really, when you being a station manager, that's one of the things in the FCC rules. Now, you can talk about bodily functions.
Yeah,
because
you can, and people have.
Well, remember, what was it? Who was the, I can't think of the doc. What was the doctor's name that was on in the 90s? He was on with, was he syndicated along with Rush? You had to take him if you took Rush, whatever. Can't think of his name.
I don't know, but Dr. Drew's been on.
No. The other guy. Oh, gosh, I just can't think of his name. Skinny guy.
Yeah.
He's very popular, and he constantly talked about, I'll never forget, because I was out working for a radio station one time, a talk radio station, and there I am. We've got the loudspeakers on, and we're at a supermarket, and families are coming up. He goes, let's discuss irritable bowel syndrome.
Yeah.
It's like aisle 3. It's like I'm in a supermarket, and the speakers are on. Let's get into discussion. Well, doctor, what is it about irritable bowel syndrome? It's like,
Yeah. We have to talk openly about this as a society. Do we? Do we really? It's okay to talk about it. Is it?
Getting back to the topic at hand.
Anywho, getting back to the things that concern us.
If this is where we are right now, I'm the happiest person alive.
Yeah.
If it's really the case.
Yeah.
If it's really the case that independent, undecided people are looking for specific solutions and not imagery from where we have been with Democrats over the last 30 years in this country with the imagery, if we're finally to the point where undecided independents, and remember, and I say that because you and I are always, how can you be undecided right now? How is that possible? But if undecided independents or former Biden voters are saying we need the specifics of how you're going to solve the problem, and we need it from Democrats. We don't need it from Trump because he's already proven himself. If we're there, that is a huge leap for this country.
I really think it is. I think there's so many things going on right now, and I wondered about this recently, and we talked about it on the air, and I really now wonder what the internals are showing. One of the things they saw, we know, with Biden, and we know this because other Democrats in the party were talking about it, their fear for the down ballot. And it wasn't that Democrat voters, rank and file, were just going to all of a sudden go red. It was they were going to stay home. Voter apathy was their biggest concern within their group. And then all of a sudden you get the much younger Kamala Harris, and there's this, fake euphoria. They tried to fake it. And then I'm wondering where the internals are now, because think about the psychology of what it is. I take voting very seriously. It's, to me, it's a day where it's like, okay, the time, and it usually only takes a few minutes in my neighborhood. I can't remember the last time I stood in line for very long, but certainly to the voting place and then back home within an hour and a half, I mean, at the most. But I take it very seriously. That time is set aside. You know, I want nothing else going on in that moment and everything else. And think about what it takes to get you to the polls. Is she it for rank and file Democrats? Now, there's the other side of it, and that's hatred for Trump. But the toxicity for Trump is all but gone. I think there's hatred for him, but the difference would be I've got to show up. The vile hatred for him and toxicity would drive you to go, it didn't matter who was running against him. Now, maybe not so much, and voter apathy is still in play or back in play with Democrats, and I'm curious to see if that is the case.
Well, you saw the initial numbers, 58 million.
Yeah.
Which is way down.
Yeah.
When you think about this is the only debate and she's completely unknown.
Right. You wanted to see her in that setting.
Right. Trump, you already know everybody knows what Trump's about.
Right.
We have no idea what she's about.
Right.
She didn't do anything for for 50 days.
Right.
Which is unprecedented in modern American political history. And still there wasn't as much interest in other debates, in past debates, with that we now have more of a population in this country.
Right.
I saw some of the comparisons yesterday and been like, wow, who doesn't this bode well for? Well, people already know who Trump is. Is there nobody that isn't there massive amounts of wondering what she's about, or have people already figured out what she is about?
Right. And are they seeing in internals that right now that you can say one thing to a pollster, but voter apathy is a real killer.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Brought to you by FPPF, Fuel Power Max.
Owner-operators can save a hefty amount of money by participating in discount fuel networks. If you're leased and your fleet has a fuel optimizer program, use it. Such a program helps plan a trip based on fuel prices and locations in the carrier's fuel network. The larger the carrier, typically the larger the discounts that are possible. Fees for using such networks have become rare thanks to competition for drivers. Owner-operators are well advised, however, to pass up network fuel stops that are too costly, are too far off route, sell inferior fuel, or are dangerously or poorly maintained. For independent owner-operators, a bevy of fuel discount networks exists, from a variety of traditional fuel cards to the National Association of Small Trucking Companies network and the younger mudflap applications discounts at independent truck stops around the nation. Research the options and discounts available to find the right one for you. Owner-Operator Business 101 is provided by Overdrive's Partners in Business program. Go to overdriveonline.com to the Partners in Business section of the website for more details on this and many other topics.
Brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-EYE on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Thanks to John, it was I couldn't remember Dr. Dean Adele. That's who it was.
Yeah, there we go. All right.
There I am on a Friday night, and the station I work for carried him right after 6.
Yeah.
And the live broadcast was till 7.
Right.
And we've got this big mobile van unit, and everything else, and we're at a supermarket. Come on, kids, come on up. We're cooking hot dogs and everything else, and it was Dr. Dean Adele. It's like. And there I am. We're here at the supermarket, and everything. We got hot dogs and everything else. Now back to Dr. Dean Adele. Let's talk irritable bowel syndrome.
And don't forget to tune in tomorrow when I give you the 10 questions you should ask your proctologist.
Yes. And all helpful information. It's just the timing didn't fit.
Right.
And
yeah.
I and so, but that was just.
And thank you to Richard as well, who also sent us the response. And I remember it's interesting when we get into, getting back to the Trump thing, when the media, still Nate Silver was on it when he was live tweeting the debate saying, one of the mistakes that Trump made was picking J.D. Vance. Actually, no. I think it's helped Trump. Actually.
Oh, I think it has, yeah.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. During the break here, I've got a doctor's appointment next week. I've talked about it. I've got type 2 diabetes, so I go. It's under control, though. It's all under control. I mean, it's
right, yeah.
But so I go to the doctor twice a year.
Yeah,
not once a year, but twice a year because of it. And so my blood work just came in. And the weird thing is, it used to be where the lab would send it to the doctor, and then the doctor would send it to me. It'd take a couple of days, and then the doctor would, say, here's what it is here. We'll talk about it when he's, in the appointment. And it started 6 months ago. The lab sends it to me directly.
Yeah, a couple of years ago, my doctor's office started doing that, and it was like, don't wait to talk to the doctor about it. You'll be able to see it. If you see some things that you don't understand, don't worry about it.
He was surprised last time. He said, I said, well, no. He said, he said, did you check it out? I said, I got it because I only got my blood work. What's today? Thursday? Got it Tuesday. It's like they already, they got it done and boom, it just came in a few minutes ago.
Yeah.
And so he even asked me, he said, are you okay with it? He says, I know you know almost everything on your blood work because that's what we go over.
When you get older, because you go to the doctor more often, you kind of learn what to look for and what they're looking at. So,
yes.
yeah.
So just to announce, my cholesterol levels super low.
Right.
And the triglycerides up a little bit, but you're blaming that on the sandwich that I had.
Yeah. I mean, it's, lunch meat is really bad for that. It's just, and it is, I had another type of doctor one time another type of doctor, the kind that works out of a U-Haul. No, it was a specialist one time. We were talking about things, but he said, be very careful about, you want to be consistent with your diet, but be careful, so the point he was making is you could eat something. They tell you 8 hours. I don't eat anything at all from the afternoon prior until the next morning when I get the blood work, because every single time, if I eat something 8.5, 9 hours, which is, they tell you don't eat within 8 hours. But if I eat something just before that window or an hour before that window, my cholesterol changes in significant ways. And it's like, okay, I'll go back to actually fasting, which I don't have a problem with. I'm really hungry by the time.
Oh, well, the thing is, for me, I hate, because of my schedule, I don't have 8-hour windows.
Yeah.
I actually have to, because what I do for my doctor, because I have white coat syndrome also. So when I go into the doctor, my blood pressure's through the roof.
Right.
And so I really, like a month and a half before, I'm always taking my blood pressure. I don't really take, my blood sugar a lot because I know it's under control and I know what I eat. But coming up like 2 months before, I start taking it a lot more. And like the last month, I might take it 5, 6, 7 times a week just to put a pattern in. So I say, okay, 8-hour fast, 8-hour fast.
Right.
I hate fasting. I mean, it drives me up. I just, because I can't do the things that I want to do. I've done a couple times where I've eaten and exercised. I'm starving 4 hours later because normally I eat like 3 times a day, but I don't eat a lot. And so it's almost like to do an 8-hour fast, I eat a lot more, so I'm not starving by the time the 8 hours comes around. But everything's good. Everything's good.
Yeah.
Clean bill of health.
Good.
The show continues.
All right, we can get back to drinking and smoking again. Blood work's over.
Yeah, could you somebody get me a cigarette?
Yeah, we need cigar and booze apparently in studios now.
I think this is the appointment where the nurse asked me beforehand, do you have any suicidal thoughts? They do that,
Yeah, right, yeah.
It's like,
yeah.
And I always want to respond, I'm in the doctor's office to find out if I'm healthy.
Well, there is really, it has become a more comprehensive approach on that level and also on the pharmacy level. I had a family member who was picking up a medication and it was an opioid. And they wanted to know not just, you're showing an ID. You have to show an ID when you pick it up. They want to know what the purpose was. Why are you taking it? That particular pharmacy did. I don't know that all pharmacies do, but our pharmacy did. And it was Walmart. And it's because we're in a time now, especially with opioids. But if you're not doing your due diligence, lawyers are going to come after you. That's just part of it. But you really want to have that kind of that comprehensive approach of saying, look, we want to look out for pretty much everything. If we're going to be the primary care physician office, then, you got to take that, and you're going to have to take on that kind of responsibility. It's not as far as I know, it's not a requirement, a new requirement. I know that the rules have changed on some things, but I think it's more of, let's make sure we've covered our bases. It also might be better care for a number of people. I mean, if there could be some individuals out there that feel more comfortable talking to their primary care physician about something than starting a new relationship with a doctor, a psychologist, or a psychiatrist, So,
look, I'm fine with it because they want to know. And my doctor, I'll say this about my doctor: you never feel. Now he's my age. Mm-hmm. He's a couple months older than me, but he's old school, and he used to be a surgeon. He did both. He had a general practice and a surgeon at the same time. Yeah. And then he gave it up, and he's working for a medical company now, which he likes. And I don't care if I go into the doctor's office and, normally they'll call me in at the regular time. Sometimes I've had to wait an hour before he comes in the room. Mm-hmm. And I don't care because once he gets in there, I never feel hurried. And the majority of, because I've got I already know what the blood work is. We discussed the blood work. He discusses the chemistry of it to me. He knows I understand chemistry. Right. So he goes into further details. I think he actually enjoys the visit. And he and my doctor beforehand, because I've had two doctors since I've had type 2 diabetes, which is 8 years now. When I got it, they read the riot act to me. This will kill you, whatever. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And they realized that I asked a ton of questions, but they said, look, you still have to, you can cheat once in a while. Go have a day once a month where
don't eat the entire cake, but
right. Don't eat the entire cake, but you've got to have a quality of life. And
otherwise you may end up one day eating an entire cake and then just throwing it all out the window.
As you said, the majority of people that have type 2, and one of my doctors said it to me one time, he said, sometimes for most of our patients, it's like long-term hospice.
Yeah.
Because
that's the other part of it.
And he goes, then there's the people that go overboard. And he says, you don't go overboard. You have a great interest in the chemistry of it, which I do. And a lot of the things I'll do, it's like, okay, I'm really gonna see this week if I eat this or do this, what will my blood work be? I'm fascinated by that to see it. It's not like, look, I know that life is finite. I understand it. But the human body is just amazing. It's like the first time.
So interesting.
I have the dreaded C procedure coming up here in the next couple of months. Mm-hmm. The colonoscopy. Boy, this all fits in with the Dr. Dean Adele stuff, doesn't it?
Yeah, right.
And I will tell you the first. I think this will be my fourth one, and I will tell you that,
And by the way, you're doing them once a month. You should probably slow down. I think that's not necessary.
But I enjoy
I'm
that.
not a doctor, but
Good. That maybe nobody heard that. We talked over each other. I said, and I enjoy that.
well, it is the best sleep you'll get.
I have been having a little trouble sleeping lately. It's every time it's like I'm going to know when I go out. Give me the propofol, but I'm going to know. And you just don't. You're just out of it.
At my last one, the anesthesiologist said, well, don't be nervous. I said, you're the one that should be nervous. I'm going to be asleep. I'm not nervous at all. I'm looking forward to being asleep.
And that's the stuff Michael Jackson did that killed him.
Yeah, propofol.
But it's
right,
great.
yeah.
I mean, it's great stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's just
managed correctly. Yes.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean. Great. Yeah. I didn't mean it from a recreational drug use point of view. I meant from a medical point of view.
Have they ever found that lying around the White House ever? It's somebody leave a tank of propofol around here?
I mean, I haven't got it in a while, but I think my dentist was a little worried, and I said, "Can I buy this? Can I buy this laughing gas anywhere? You got any extra around?"
Yeah, right. Yeah. No, it's great.
But yeah, so I like I like my doctor, and it's really interesting. As I've said before, type 2 diabetes is one of the best things that's ever happened to me in my life. That's how I view it. And people are like, what are you talking about? Said it really made me focus. It really made me focus. Not that I wasn't working out, but I was eating wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I was eating way too many carbs. Mm-hmm. It made me really pay attention because they read the riot act to me, and one of the it said this will kill you, and told me the progression of it and everything else. Mm-hmm. And mine really hasn't progressed much in 8 years, which I just thank God for for that. But it made me as I get older really want that quality of life. I might be 20, 25 pounds overweight if it wasn't for that diagnosis. Mm-hmm. Now I pay attention to all of it. And 8 years into it, it's really hard to begin with. 8 years into it, it's a breeze. I can go into a donut shop and the smells of the donuts and the sugary stuff and everything else, and I can go in and get, can I get a coffee, cream and artificial sweetener, please? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then walk right out. Mm-hmm. And, so I've gotten to that
like
point.
a communist, like a real communist.
Which, you're going to relate type 2 diabetes to being a communist. I'm trying to keep my type 2 diabetes
walk
under
out
control.
Of a donut shop without a donut.
And
unless you eat it there, like I do.
No, but I will have a donut. I mean, if I want to have a donut once in a while, I'll have one. I'll cheat. You know what I cheat on? Pizza.
Oh yeah,
because pizza once a year, I will have Chinese because rice is heroin to me.
Yeah.
It really is. But you know what I found out? The greatest thing I found out is the fact of, and I didn't know this till about a year ago, is that not that I only eat rice the once a year when I get to, but I'll actually take the rice and put it in the refrigerator.
Yeah, we talked about that.
Let it get cold.
I introduced that topic with a new study that showed rice and pasta, if you refrigerate it after cooking it, has a much different set of nutritional values and is good for the gut and everything else, and also has a lower glycemic index value.
Right, and because you refrigerate it. Now, I have super low carb spaghetti pasta.
Right.
And it's like 60% less carbs, but still it's a lot.
Yeah, yeah.
So what I do there, I want spaghetti, put it in, make it, put it in the refrigerator, eat it the next day.
Yeah.
And, it's just, and so that's the thing. You try to find out how can I because that not having pasta, lasagna, that's the stuff that really, when it comes to regular food, that really killed me. But they now make bread. They make bread that's super low carb. Now there's a company I actually get muffins from and croissants, and it's super low carb and super low calorie. Yeah. But there's so much fiber that you have to be very careful. Otherwise, you would be a patient of Dr. Dean Adele. Going back to last.
Yeah. Don't make plans for the weekend.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah,
but they
sit around the house.
But in the last 8 years, they've made a lot more food that is low carb. But the problem is, it can also be very high calorie. And so you've got to watch both of them. But
right, yeah, because a lot of times you lose the sugar, but there's more fat or whatever it is to make it more satisfying.
Yeah.
You know, my niece told me very quickly one time, she's a doctor, and I said, you know, you must sometimes, do people talk? I just was wondering. And since I know her and she's a doctor, do people talk too much in the doctor's office? She says, no, and you can never look at it that way. Because if they're doing that and asking questions, a ton of questions, then it's a lot better than having a patient that's not following anything you say, that doesn't really care, that doesn't seem to be concerned or ask questions, and you understand that is out of your control. That's something that's, you know, very real. And so we want people to ask questions. So I was like, all right, okay. So I always book a 2-hour appointment with my doctor. Hey, does this look infected? Let's start with that. But yeah, that's good news, though.
Yeah, so.
Yeah.
But, we got a ton of stuff to talk about.
Oh, man, so much.
Oh, I know what I want to get to. Hang on, we'll get to it.
Okay.
No time. 866-90 Red Eye.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90 Red Eye.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's our Carly, and I'm Gary McNamara. Earlier this hour, we were talking about the indications that the Harris campaign, in their internal polls, show problems. I'll tell you what, to me, was a slam dunk on that coming up following the top of the hour.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Thank you for being here this morning. Here we are on the 12th. You know, yesterday being the anniversary of 9/11, we didn't get a chance to really talk about it a lot, just because it was just we're one of the first shows post debate. But I always hear, one of the things you and I have said, they'll always remember, and we've said, well, a significant portion of the nation is completely forgotten. If you say, okay, we remember it, but we don't do anything about it. You look at it, I was reading one thing saying, we have more now at the border. We have more. Think about this. Have you learned anything? Do you truly remember 9/11 when we have the number of people on the terrorist watch list, and we're not talking about Tulsi Gabbard crossing the border?
Yeah.
Record numbers?
Yep.
Have we learned anything from 9/11?
Nope.
Now, a lot of Americans have, because I know people listening, because I'll say that, and they'll go, I care. We know you care. That's a given, okay?
We know you remember.
We know, yes.
We know you care.
Right.
But people still vote in the opposite direction of national security, and it boggles the mind.
There are things that impacted people on that day, and there are different things that impacted people. The one thing I can never get out of my mind, if there's anything that is haunting me about that still haunts me, and I believe will haunt me for the rest of my life, is Falling Man.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing that never leaves me. And Falling Man, the picture, is just representative of the number of people that made the decision to jump.
Mm.
And maybe didn't make the decision, were forced out, but with Falling Man, if you've ever seen the documentary on Falling Man, wow, that's so tough.
Yeah, it is.
Because they talk about the photographer who took it, said there was almost a screw you, I'm going to decide when I die.
Mm-hmm.
I can't, for me, that's the one thing. I can't get over any of it ever. Those days, and you and I both remember it because when you're in talk radio, I might have been sleeping. I don't even know if I slept that first night at all because I was glued to the TV. I was called in. I was doing an afternoon show at our flagship WBAP, and I was called in early because our midday guy was what happened was he was on vacation. He was out of the country.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there was a fill-in host, but as soon as I remember, my buddy Jeff called me. He said, "Hey, what's going on? Check it out." Because I was sleeping. He said a plane hit the World Trade Center, and he said, "I'm doing my route." He's a sales guy, and he says, "I don't know what's going on. Tell me what's on TV." And I told him, I said, "Yeah," I said, "You can see the smoke coming." I go, "Plane hit it? What in the world?" Then I hung up with him, and about a minute later, the second one hit. And at that moment, I just went right in to take a shower because I knew I was going to be called in. And I knew at that moment, like everybody else did, it was terrorism. As soon as it hit. And when I got out, there was the message, "You got to come in now." And I can still remember sitting in the control room at our flagship station, WBAP, where I was working at the time. I remember being in the main control room. And remember the old Arlington studios that we were at?
It's where I was when the planes hit, actually. I was in there with Hal J. and the morning show when the planes hit.
Oh, when it first hit. Okay, mm-hmm. Right. So when I went in later on, you had already left.
Yes.
You were already left for the day.
In fact, when the second plane hit, I looked at the guys we were off the air. We didn't know what had happened with the first plane. We had a financial correspondent from our parent company across the street in New York, and he didn't know what had happened, and he was talking to us off the air. And so our parent company was trying to figure out what was going on, and then we all watched it, me and Hal and our producer watched it live. The TV, most radio stations in the control room, you've got a TV monitor on, and we watched it live. When the second plane hit, I looked at the staff, I looked at everybody, and I said, "I've got to go find my children." And I'm driving home on Airport Freeway, by the way, right near, just south of DFW Airport, and there's not a plane in the sky, and there's traffic. Traffic had slowed almost to a crawl. And I'm looking around. I'm listening to our flagship station. By that time, they had gone from between local. They were switching back and forth between local and national coverage. And I'm looking around. How many people are listening to a CD or something? How many people are listening to something and they don't know what's going on yet? And my soon-to-be son-in-law at the time was at Camp Pendleton in California, and his soon-to-be bride, my eldest daughter, had her purse stolen, and so she was getting ready to fly to Pendleton for his graduation from the Marine Corps boot camp there, and I was trying to tell, and she had to get a new license so she could get on a plane the following Friday, just a few days from then. I said, "I don't think, honey, we're going to have any planes in the sky by then." And she said, "Well, I got to go. But when I pulled up to the house and I go inside and she's sitting in the living room, she goes, "Dad, the building, it just fell. It just fell. The whole thing just came down."
And that's where I was. I was in the control room when I can't remember whether it's the first or second. I remember the day. Specifics can be a little bit of a blur because I think we were all in shock. But I remember sitting there, and Bob Schomper, our boss at the time, because they brought me in early to cut between the national coverage and the local coverage.
Right.
And we're in there, and my boss says to me, because I was in there probably for about an hour, hour and a half, and I had not yet gone on the air. They didn't break. They were still doing national coverage. He looked at me, he goes, sorry that we haven't got you on, that we called you in, we haven't got you in yet. And I said, like I care.
Right,
And there was a part of me, one thing I remember, there was a part of me that didn't want to go on the air because it was beyond any scope of anything that I had ever dealt with at that moment in talk radio.
Mm-hmm.
I remember I was on the air when the Murrah Federal Building was the Timothy McVeigh bombing, when that happened.
I was at another radio station. I was working at a rock station, and my boss screamed from his office going, "Oh, my gosh." And he had a tiny, tiny TV in his office, and I went in there and we watched the coverage of that.
And I remember, I knew at that point, obviously that was I had seen enough car bombs where you knew that was a car bomb.
You knew it was from the ground based on the crater and the damage to the building. Yeah.
Right. You knew you knew it was.
We had a family member who was 3-4 blocks away, and not to get too graphic, she was sitting on a toilet and she was tossed on the floor by the movement.
And so I dealt with that, but this level, I mean, it was just, you couldn't even process it. I remember thinking to myself, I don't even know what to do. I don't know what to say.
Yeah.
How do you do it? And I did eventually go on the air, and I remember talking to a number of federal politicians, on it, whatever. Mm-hmm. But it was a blur. I mean, there was no.
We didn't sleep in our industry.
We didn't sleep.
We didn't, because you couldn't, because things were changing.
Yeah.
And if you're going to talk about it, in fact, on this show, we're still, the old version of this show. We were based in Arlington, but in the hours before on that morning, we were still playing a couple of songs, and we were taking calls from truck drivers and talking about other things in the news. Michael Jordan going back to basketball.
Well, wasn't that
and there was
wasn't that Joe's first night on the air with you?
No, not the first, but Joe Kelly. Yeah, he was. Yeah. He was my co-host. We were doing things before that, but that was the night of 9/11, the morning of 9/12/2001 was the first time we had not played country music on that show, and we didn't go back to it because we had to, it was about coverage of that. Mm-hmm. We were transitioning away from music.
Right, the goal, that was the goal, yeah.
For those that don't know, our flagship WBAP was, back in the day, was a country music station. But we were the last day part to transition out of that, and we were kind of catapulted out of that by 9/11. But, sleeping was 30 minutes at a time, maybe.
Yep.
And because, and quite honestly, you didn't feel it because you were numb, like every American. I think you were wondering, okay, what's next? Are we safe? All of those things, and then you got to pull it together and get the facts together, and you got to keep up with that. And back then, trying to think, we had internet in the building at the old place, and I had internet on a PC, but phones, I didn't have internet by phone. We didn't have smartphones yet.
No smartphones.
And so it wasn't like you could, like today, things come across and it's pushed through notifications on your device and everything else. But back then, you had your TV on, you had your computer on, but nothing updated on the computer on websites, by the way, at whatever, foxnews.com or whatever. Nothing updated like it does now. In fact, priorities seem to be more digital now, or just as fast on digital as it is on television. But you were just watching the coverage in order to gain as much information, learn as much as you could to do the proper coverage when you were on.
And I believe it was the next day when the picture came out of Falling Man. Remember the controversy?
Yeah.
They shouldn't be covering it. They shouldn't have taken the picture. And I remember being on the air saying, no, absolutely not.
Yeah.
They absolutely should show that picture. Absolutely, because the American public has stayed with me since this point. It's why I get furious at the Biden administration funding Iran.
Yeah.
I mean, the insanity of that when you think of it, the absolute insanity when you think about it after 9/11, when Trump stopped that funding through the oil money.
Yeah.
And then Biden does it again, which our enemies, Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis, what happened in Afghanistan, which all comes from 9/11, it becoming a terrorist state again.
Yeah.
We haven't learned a damn thing.
No.
And
no,
it's
in
like
fact, we're not only have we not learned, we're now proactively, the radicals are proactively out there protesting in support of the enemy.
Yeah, exactly. They're pro-Hamas. Americans have become a significant portion of the Democratic Party have become supporters of the terrorism, the same kind of terrorism that took down the World Trade Center buildings. It's absolutely insane. And for me, my rage and my fury, whenever I talk about that, really, the whole thing drives it. But sometimes it's the imagery of the one thing, and I can never get out of my mind the thought process of Falling Man, who represents everybody who had a jump that day in that time period of the human mind knowing that I'm going to die in the next 15 minutes.
Yeah.
I will never be able to get that feeling out of my brain, the emotion that it brings up. And I know my resolve and I'll say the good people of the United States that never wants another American to ever go through that again, or what those the Americans that were taken hostage, or the Israelis waiting all that time to get killed, to get executed, and they finally did. And we've got idiots in the Democratic Party going, it's Israel's fault. Well, go to hell. Rot in hell if that's where you are, because I haven't, it hasn't, when I think back to it, and you probably can tell by my passion here, it has not dulled in me at all the seriousness of the Islamic jihadist threat that we face as Americans. It's as strong now as it was back then.
Because the threat is even greater.
Right. And
the threat is even greater. If you look at where terrorism has grown and what it's become, and now you have Americans as activists for the terrorists.
Yep.
We're coming up on the anniversary here in less than a month on October 7th. And we are at a critical point, period. This is about the safety of the free world. If you're an American activist and you think Hamas is going to love you because you're pro-Hamas, they're coming after you too. Because you're an American. Nobody is safe. And we're certainly not safe if we think for a moment that an open border is a good thing and people just want to come here and do good things. It really comes back to that whole bowl of M&Ms thing. All right, there's a bowl of M&Ms on the table. A couple of them are deadly poisonous. Have at it. Yeah. Go ahead. Help yourself. Of course you wouldn't and shouldn't.
And so when I look at it, there's an absolute fury of, and it's, I saw about, the illegal immigration. Democrats really still aren't worried about it. The polling that came out, even post-debate, they really don't care.
Yep.
They're fine with the illegal immigration that's happening.
Right.
I'm sure that they're not counting the Democrats in many of the major cities.
Right. Yeah.
866-98 Red Eye.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. And, Eric, the thing is, when we look at 9/11, we look at the Democrats today because it's just the anti-Semitism, the pro-Hamas narrative all comes from the Democratic Party. That's where it comes from.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you may have stragglers, some people that call themselves in the right that are part of it, but they're not part of the conservative movement. They're not a part of the mainstream movement out there. And you have it. You have it in the mainstream of the Democratic Party, which is the president and vice president.
Yep.
And I sarcastically call it, compassionate racism, compassionate anti-Semitism.
Yeah.
Because they claim they're doing it because it's for the good. It's for the good of. Shut up. And you were so on right after October 7th of last year, where you said there's no middle ground here. Don't give me this middle ground crap. There's no middle ground. You're either on the side of the terrorists or you're on the side of the free democratic world. End of story.
Yep. There's the radicals on one side, everybody else on the other side.
Yep.
Period. There is no middle ground. And when you say things like two-state solution that the would-be two states aren't even calling for, we know exactly where you are.
Powered by windmills and solar panels. Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. My favorite thing on social media yesterday was this.
All right.
It says, the left. No one is eating people's pets, which means we're 1 week away from, why do you care that people are eating pets? We're 3 weeks away from, why eating pets is a good thing. And we're 4 weeks from, refusing to eat pets is white supremacy.
Right. Oh, my God. And while that is hilarious, it's funny because we've seen examples of it with the leftist agenda in the past.
Oh, yeah, that's why it's funny, yeah.
You won't date a transgender? What? You're a bigot. Remember that whole thing?
Oh, God, yes.
Remember that whole thing?
Yes. I'm a woman. Why won't you date me? Because you're a man. See, you're a bigot. You're a transphobe. You're a bigot for you. You don't want to date me because I'm heterosexual and you're a man.
Right.
No, I'm a woman. No, you're a man. I'm going to commit suicide if you say that again, because that's the argument. That's why you have to agree.
Officially, that's their argument.
Yes, because if your first response to me is, Gary, that's a cruel thing to say, I'm not saying it.
That's what they're saying.
That's what they're saying.
You are part of the problem if you even bring it up.
And then you had on some of these shows, they had panel discussions. Well, is it bigotry? And if you are a heterosexual male, should you date a transgender woman? And are you a bigot and you feel guilty if you don't? No!
I mean, that's where we are. And it feels like this thing with the whole eating pets thing. It really does, because the media, the liberal media is like, well, there's no proof of that. There is no proof of that. We talked to people, and those people said no. The problem is perception is reality.
Yeah,
We said this yesterday.
Well, the problem with Trump hitting it
or
is
day before yesterday.
the problem with Trump hitting it is the fact that I'm not sure exactly what the situation is.
Don't go. You don't
Right.
have to. But
You don't need to go down.
You don't
Right.
have to commit. Let that play out on social media. That's going to play out on social media.
Right.
No, I don't know all the facts in that situation, but politically, I don't need to say this. The perception is the reality, and the liberal media's response to it and coverage of it was laughable. But I love that. In 4 weeks,
Refusing to eat pets.
you don't eat pets. What's wrong with you? What kind of bigot are you?
White supremacy.
There are people starving in other parts of the world. Why wouldn't you eat?
Come on, you guys. You guys at Red Eye Radio, you're going overboard. That's never going to happen. They say that a man is a woman because the man says so, and therefore the man should be able to compete with the woman. If the woman doesn't like it, you bully her, you threaten her, you tell her we will destroy your life because you are a bigot, women. Misogyny has become a core value of the Democratic Party. So
Look,
is it possible that 4 weeks from now, if they find out that actually is happening and the evidence is absolutely clear and cut, that somebody won't say that? I can't say that won't happen.
we're not making that prediction. And if you have any problem with what we're saying, we can go just to recent history. And you don't have to watch the whole thing. Just watch the opening ceremonies of the 2024 Summer Olympics and women's boxing. And you'll have your answer and the coverage surrounding all of it. This is where we are with the radicals. I can't tell you what's going on. I don't know what's going on with people eating pets or or eating geese from the park. I can't tell you exactly what's going on there. I don't have that information in front of me. I can't tell you. What I can say is I don't need to know exactly what's going on to know that it has an impact on people right now, because it is part and parcel with the illegal immigration problem that we have in this country. And I know that people hear from
and
the
illegal immigration, and in this case, the refugee situation.
That's where I was going. And I know that people from Haiti are refugees, but it doesn't matter. People lump all of it together because what they see is, wait a minute, there should be a clear assimilation into the culture. That's what we want as a society when people come here from other nations. Number two is we want to know that our families, including our pets, are safe. I don't have any question as to how desperate people can be, and I also have no question as to the fact, this is not speculation, that there is a criminal element to people who come here from other countries. Not every person, but it's real, and that's why we have boundaries as a nation. You set that up. Not, okay, doors open, everybody do what you want. Kick the door in at that apartment in Aurora, Colorado, and, while you're holding a long gun. Go ahead. That's fine. Find out liberals were, did not want to cover that, but anything else related to a gun, they want to. Well, this is the problem that they have, this election cycle, is that you can't change the perception in people's minds because they look at it, and I think most reasonable people go, yeah, I don't know what's going on there, but something looks weird, and we probably wouldn't have this problem if we had clear boundaries, an actual assimilation into society. But when it comes to whether it's a refugee status or now with Biden, all you do is come in and wave. I don't even think they sign anything anymore. I think they're just down to, just wave and we'll call you later about a court date on the southern border. People are done with this. They're done. Trump himself talked about how legal immigration is going to be necessary for a thriving economy, and he's right, because we're not having babies anymore as a society. It's actually gotten to a very dangerous point. I think we're number 2 behind on the birth rate, according to the Wall Street Journal recently, behind South Korea. And South Korea is at a very low status, to the point of some of their kindergarten classes are having to shut down. They're not populated. They're just not having children. Well, now you have a situation where everybody's looking at this going, all right, we can talk legal immigration another time. Close the liberals,
border, right? Yeah.
Close the border. Let's get our stuff in order, keep our house in order. Let's not defund the police. Let's not abolish ICE. Let's increase their presence to make sure that the government is doing their job. And on the federal level, national security is the number 1 role of the federal government.
By the way, what they failed to put in 6 weeks, it'll be, well, since the pets are being eaten, the problem is the pets. Get rid of the pets, and in the meantime, you help with climate change.
Exactly. No, I was thinking climate change. Climate change. Well, there is a climate change problem. And we do have an overabundance of pets on the planet overall.
The left, the far left has talked about that, but the fact is the far left loves their pets too.
Oh, of course.
They don't know what to do, but it's like that's been talked about. One of the biggest reasons that climate change is happening is because we have too many pets. If we didn't have the pets, it wouldn't happen.
Right. That's it. You could keep your pet in an air-conditioned vehicle parked in front of a shopping center for 10 seconds while you drop off your dry cleaning, and if a liberal sees that, then she's going to be all over it, and you're going to be famous on social media. We think people may be eating cats and geese from the park. There's no evidence of that. There's no evidence of that. Look, it'll all be worked out. I used to be able to say, well, I trust local authorities to do whatever they're going to do on this. Everybody has an agenda, and I don't know what the local authorities are seeing. I trust the officers that are responding. I trust those that have to do that job, that have to respond to calls like that. But I can't tell you what's going on and what's actually true, what's accurate, and what's not. I can tell you that as a nation, the numbers show it. We're done. We're absolutely done. We want to have a refugee program. Great. Let's have a refugee program. But this is why we talk about local government. Because on the local level, you better be communicating with your citizens and saying, this is what's going on. And because they need to know, they need to feel safe. They need to know you're doing your job, and that other agencies on that local level are also part of it and doing the job to keep everybody safe, to make sure there are clear boundaries and everybody understands the rules. And
I mean that.
I don't think there's.
Yeah, but the problem for the left on this is whether it's true or not. It highlights the huge problem, because now you're seeing more articles on, well, why were there 20,000 Haitians, that the federal government put in these towns that can't handle that type of influx to begin with, and then you're back to right where we were before. Right.
The International Bridge in Del Rio, same thing. Del Rio's 35,000 population. You got 10,000 people crossing there that bridge and standing under, thousands of them in those pictures at one time, standing under that bridge waiting to get across, because this administration opened the floodgates.
And now they've got basically a fast checkout line.
Yeah, right.
Well, there's not as many crossing the border. Why is that? Because we have a fast checkout line.
Yeah.
We'll just fly them in from other cities will just do it, but they're still coming in.
We joked about that a couple of weeks before, saying, yeah, they'll just say it's not a border problem. There is no problem at the border. And the border's secure because we're flying them here.
And it's exactly what they did.
It's actually what they did.
That's what they're doing now.
Yep.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Well, core inflation's still a problem. I see that ticked up to 0.3%.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the inflation numbers out yesterday. Housing up 0.5%.
Yeah.
I mean, that
still on the rise.
That's at a 6%.
And keep in
level
mind,
still.
That
housing, that is.
Housing is a lagging number on the federal government. So whatever has been happening earlier this year, it actually takes a while for their stats at the federal level to catch up with housing. And that's why many in the housing industry have been looking at that going, the government numbers are, 3, 4, 5, 6 months behind. The fact that it's still on the rise.
They expected it to be 0.2. It was 0.3.
Right. Wow. Yeah. So then you got, what is it, next week? Next week, the Fed will announce their interest rate thing. Most believe it'll be a quarter of a point decrease. I don't know.
So I should get my Treasury bill now?
No, actually, I saw the article. Buy them before next week's.
Right. Oh, did you? I didn't.
It was.
Right.
This actually goes back actually to August, and it was a few weeks ago that said, buy your Treasury bills before the next Fed meeting. Yeah. Yep.
Hey, why not make money on our debt?
Sure. Look, if we're all going down, I'm going to make money at it. If we're doomed,
somebody's going to come out.
I'm going to be rich. And
some liberal's going to write us. That's wrong. You guys shouldn't make money on the debt.
Yeah, I should. Tell me where I'm wrong. Why shouldn't I?
What do you mean? I'm making it so you can continue borrowing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because I make some cash on it.
Right. Yeah.
Well, no, you should just do it voluntarily and then just pay the debt without any interest.
Right. Okay. Okay.
Anything's possible these days, because I know somebody's going, Gary, don't be ridiculous. You can't say that anymore.
Yeah, no.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across the USA. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Hi.
Good morning.
Hello. How's everybody doing today? You doing all right? You optimist? You ticked off? Life suck?
I saw the story of Jon Bon Jovi.
Oh, yeah.
Talking to a person who looked like they were going to jump from a bridge in Nashville. Mm-hmm. And I thought, number one, they'll do anything to promote a new album. Number two, and in all seriousness, I'm looking at that going, okay, so you're Jon Bon Jovi, and they were apparently filming a video for a new song, and then he notices this person, and he approaches them. You've got to be completely nervous then, because quite frankly, and not because he's Jon Bon Jovi, but what if you cause them to act, in the opposite direction, and they, and so you're working basically, and then all of a sudden you notice this, and then he apparently was able to have a conversation with this person, and then they came across, and came over the ledge back to the solid ground of the bridge.
There was another woman talking to her also, but
it was his colleague. Yeah,
it was one of the colleagues.
It was one of his colleagues.
But the interesting thing is when I first saw the picture on the bridge, and then I zoomed in on it a little bit, and you could see it was the Jon Bon Jovi smile that you're used to.
Well, he was, you could tell that he was making contact
with her, but he had that smile on his face as he talking to her, and it was like, wow. The question is, what you wonder is, did she know it was Jon Bon Jovi?
See, that's the thing.
Did she, if she recognized it was him? Can you imagine that?
Because I would have looked over, and then, I would hope and pray I would never be in that mental state. But if I looked over, I'd be, okay, now I'm hallucinating. Now I'm seeing Jon Bon Jovi next to me, and it would be, that had to have been, that's what was going through my mind. Okay, so you're famous as Jon Bon Jovi. You're famous. And that had to be a question in your mind. Oh, wait a minute. Okay, do I approach? Because then that person they're going to look at me and go, well, wait a minute. But then look, I've got to take this opportunity. Ultimately is what he clearly decided, to do everything I can and just see if I can help this person in this moment. And so far, the story has a good ending, and I hope and pray it stays that way.
Yeah, I mean, it's I've had two people that I know who committed suicide. Mm-hmm. One I didn't know really well, even though we had a great conversation just a week before. He put a shotgun to his head. Yeah. And I knew his wife better than I knew him, but we were out the week before having a great conversation. No idea. Yeah. Never in a million years would you think about it. And when you talk about the human brain, because I think a normal human brain, and I'm normally you're not going to have those type of thoughts. Yeah. But the type of thought is the fact that you actually believe that, because I say a normal brain would say, well, if things are tough in my life, but if I commit suicide, I can't do that to my kids. I can't do that to my wife. I can't do that, to the people that love. I can't do that to my parents. Right. You would think that if things were just so heavy on you, and realize right now, I mean, you think about society right now with the economic situation. People are suffering right now. There's a ton of people suffering, and they deal with it. And even at times they feel like giving up, they don't, because they've got other people who depend on them, and they understand that, they believe that, no, it would harm those people if I do it. When you're committing suicide, the thought that is in your mind, and I believe it's totally legitimate, is you believe. You don't have that thought. You believe, no, they'll be better off if I'm gone.
Yeah, and by legitimate, you believe that they actually believe that, and that's
yes, they actually do believe that. They do. Yes.
That's the, that's the whole thought process as conveyed by any professional that I've ever read on the subject, because I've known a number of people that have taken their own life.
There was a friend of our shows, and I've talked about her before, and it's coming up. I mean, I know the date coming up in December. And our old friend Alexa, and she actually sat in our show one time. Yeah. But we worked with her. Yeah. Beautiful young girl. Mm-hmm. Remember? Yeah. Remember how vivacious she was? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I got to know her when I was working days before I came on this show. But I'll never forget, then she was working, and in the bill, and she came down and remember sat in on the show the one time. I think we even put her on the air. This goes back not Red Eye Radio. This goes back even before that.
Yeah.
This goes back probably to 2006, 2007.
Yeah, somewhere
like
around
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And she was younger. She was an intern. That's how I got to know her. And we would talk when she finally left. And she moved up in the business pretty well. And I'll never forget coming home from the show one day. And I checked my phone, and there's, voice message. And it's a long voice message. And it was her. And it was right before Thanksgiving. I mean, like the Tuesday or Wednesday before Thanksgiving. Mm-hmm. And she just said, look, I want to talk to you. I want to get some type of letter of reference or recommendation from you because I want to do something else and blah, 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 blah. And it kept going. I'm like, boy, this is a really long message. But it was totally about, what she wanted to do in her career.
Yeah.
And she finally said, well, I know that, you're probably going back to see your parents, everything else. Look, catch up with me. Don't call me now. I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do. I'll get back to you. And, see what you can do to help me move forward in some type of business venture. And so I said, oh, okay. I'll call her back after the holidays, whatever.
Yeah.
10 days go by, and I found out she committed suicide.
Yeah.
And I don't feel guilty because I didn't know.
Right.
But whenever anybody calls me, I call them back.
I have a friend.
Whenever anybody calls me, I don't wait. If they say, don't call me back, I always call them back. It's just automatic now because of that happening. I can't understand it. It was absolutely devastating when it happened. And you just...
I had a friend who...
Can't understand it.
We had mutual business interest in for, I don't know, a number of years. Great guy. And same thing. I mean, you don't know. You don't see it. Either you're not close enough, or sometimes the people closest to them will tell you they didn't know. And we had both traveled to this business show, this trade show, and it wasn't 2 weeks later I got the news. And I couldn't it's still hard to process, and because you do this, you go through, well, what were the signs? I didn't see any of it. I didn't see anything. Yep. But the good news here in Nashville on that bridge was surveillance cameras actually on that bridge that caught the video of it. Jon Bon Jovi was able to help that young lady back onto the bridge along with a colleague and the crew that was there filming the video for this song that they were doing. They were working. And I'm hopeful that this young lady will, also look to connect with others that will help her. You and I have brought it up before. The national, they used to call it the National Suicide Hotline, but they call it the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, 988. That's all you have to dial. Mm-hmm. 988. And I'm very grateful for the volunteers that are part of staffing that line. But you should know the world isn't a better place without you.
Yeah, I mean it is. It's because people have asked me before. Ever thought about it? I go, no. It's the last thing I was talking about. And because I look at my life and I've enjoyed every single thing I've done, even the hard stuff.
Yeah.
Every single challenge I've ever had, every single tough time I've ever had was worth it. Was a learning experience.
Yeah.
And I like to have that kind of brain, a brain that thinks that way. I feel blessed, like it's a gift. And I can't imagine if you start having those thoughts. I can't even imagine. and you believe the thought. That's the thing, because as I said before, I legitimately believe they actually believe everybody around them would be better off if they're gone.
Right.
Which, as we know, isn't true.
Right.
Because suicide has more than just that one, the one victim.
Mm-hmm.
They're the people surrounding you, the ones who don't know, the people that are close to you, and you're just like and you don't know, and you never will know, because I said you didn't see any warning signs. With the two people I knew, I never saw any warning signs, and you're like, did I just miss them? And you realize, no, you didn't. They just weren't showing that part to me.
The other cases in my life, there was, and clearly in all of them, there was a lot of deep, deep pain that was being felt. And with one person, there was some of that was evident, but we still didn't believe that it would ever lead to that conclusion. So, and that's the thing, is that it all starts with a conversation. When you watch that moment on that bridge, you see that's a conversation between John, a guy, and this person who's in pain. And the leverage that he had was, he's a very famous guy. Still unknown. I don't know. I don't know if she recognized him or not.
And law enforcement officers find themselves in those things all the time. And I think to myself, what do you do? What do you do at that moment? When you're a stranger, how do you approach it? What's the proper way?
Right.
The only thing you could do is, Bon Jovi, you're winging it. How do you wing that?
Right. You're hoping you can break the ice initially.
Right.
With the recognition of who you are, and then just have a conversation. When she got back onto the bridge, his colleague was hugging her, but he just moves in for the hug, and they just held her, and again, and experts will tell you this, it starts with a conversation, but keep the conversations going.
Yeah.
That's what's critical. That's what's important. I think of Naomi Judd. I think of, a number of famous people over the years, and you think to yourself, well, my gosh, they seemingly have it all. But the illness is different, and if you're not experiencing that, it's quite difficult, if not impossible, to understand.
You know what happened on YouTube? Because YouTube's always in shuffle for me. I watch YouTube more than anything else because I don't have any commercials. I pay not to have the commercials. You do the same thing, right?
Yeah.
And you never know what's coming up next. And all of a sudden, it didn't come up in shuffle. I was scanning one time and came up to it, and it said celebrities that have committed suicide like over the last 50 years.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe the number of people and people that I had forgotten about.
Right.
And it's just the number, hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of celebrities. And you go through it and you say, wow, riches have nothing to do with it.
No.
Riches have nothing to do with it whatsoever.
Right.
It's something that goes off in your brain that I hope never goes off in my brain.
It's why we should, I believe as a society, why it's so critical to celebrate life, to value life.
Oh, yeah.
At every stage.
Yep.
And it's I know that it's why I do. There is no alternate route for me. That's what it is. And, you see the thing about, be a blessing. And I know what that means, but I think everybody is a blessing. I think people are a blessing. And you should know that. And if you're going through something, have a conversation.
Well, good for Jon Bon Jovi, and glad that she got off. And the other woman that was there also that helped talk her off the bridge, because what a moment.
I hope she continues to get the help she needs.
You know, I thought about that snapshot, and I go, wonder if that'll win a Pulitzer Prize.
Yeah, I don't know, but it was a great
that wasn't the first thing, but after I looked, I go, wow, now that's a picture.
Yeah.
When you put it in the context of what was going on at that point,
Yep.
and being Jon Bon Jovi talking her off the the ledge of the bridge.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Brought to you by Hot Shot Secret.
Hi, I'm Jen Loomis, a transport safety expert at JJ Keller, and I'm here to share a tip on speed and space management. Due to safety concerns, many motor carriers have policies that limit or prohibit the use of cruise control. If your motor carrier does allow you to use cruise control, you should only use it in good driving conditions during daylight hours and on roads that have light traffic, few curves or hills, and a consistent speed limit. Never use cruise control when operating in adverse driving conditions, including wet, icy, or slippery roads, during rush hour in heavy traffic or on congested highways, at night, or when you're tired or fatigued. During all of these driving scenarios, you want to be controlling and adjusting your speed as you drive instead of having to suddenly brake if you encounter an obstacle. In the case of a slippery road surface, you want to be able to slow your vehicle by not accelerating instead of using the brakes whenever possible. This tip was brought to you by JJ Keller and Associates. Visit us at jjkeller.com.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-EYE on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Now what I wonder is, because I got this question yesterday, now what happens? Well, I don't know if Trump's going to do another debate or not. I mean, he was on Fox and Friends yesterday saying, and they said, well, she said she wants to do another one, and we've offered to do it with Brett Baer and Martha. No, I don't want either of those.
That's funny. You and I, literally on our way in, we're seconds as we were opening the doors to our cars yesterday morning, I said, look, the difference would be Brett Baer would be just as tough on Trump as the liberal moderators were from ABC on Trump. You know, that's the way they would probably do that. I mean, they're going to tell you they're fair and balanced, but the point is, you know, it's going to be, okay, here's we're going to play devil's advocate kind of approach, I believe, from a Brett Baer. And then Trump responded in the one interview, no, we don't want that. We don't want them.
Give me Sean or Laura or Jesse. I don't want any of them. And it's like, you agreed to ABC.
Right. Yeah, but I don't know if there's going to be another debate. I mean, I guess we'll see.
Yeah, we'll talk more about that coming up, because where do we go from this point forward?
Right.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Welcome. Download our Red Eye Radio app today, and you can listen when and where you choose.
Thank you.
You know, we're also on YouTube.
We are.
The company should have told us. We didn't know for a while.
I thought that camera was just for show. I thought it was like a fake security camera.
It's just the audio, but it came up. It came up the other day. I'm going through on Shuffle, or just not. I wasn't on Shuffle. I was just going through what was recommended for me, and there it is, Red Eye Radio.
Your name.
I'm like, huh?
Hey, Gary McNamara.
Why
We'd
am I
like
on
to
YouTube?
recommend Gary McNamara.
Oh, you can listen to our podcast on YouTube.
Mine came up early on, and then I clicked on not interested.
Well, you'd think somebody in management would have said, hey, guys, we've now put you on YouTube, promote it on the air.
Right.
You know,
I think they're building, I think what they're doing is building the cat. Look, I don't think people binge the show. I think most people, if you listen to the podcast, you listen probably every day or maybe a day or two later. But you're not going to. I don't think most people are going to sit around and go through YouTube because there's no video. It's a still shot that's in the video.
Right.
It's audio only, but you can stream it that way. And thank you. We appreciate it if you do. We're on Spotify too. We have our own app.
We're everywhere.
We're on Apple Music.
Yeah.
At one point, we had a higher rating, like a quarter of a star higher than Joe Rogan. Now, the difference is we had 2 ratings, and he had 5 million. But don't get distracted with the details. We still had a better rating at that moment.
All right. No, we have to address this. Before we get to all of our other points, we have to address this because you brought it up.
Mm-hmm.
It was is it Daily Wire?
Yeah.
The Daily Wire.
Mm-hmm.
Ben Shapiro and
Yeah.
and all the guys from the Daily Wire.
Right.
And they were doing analysis yesterday, and your accusation
The debate analysis after the debate. Yeah.
And your accusation is everybody's trying to be like Joe Rogan.
Everybody's got alcohol and cigars in the studio all the time now.
And then Bill Maher has his podcast where he's got the cocktail. I forgot who he brought in. He goes, "Oh, what would you like to drink?" He goes, "I don't drink." You don't? Like,
right.
What are you doing? We can only have the talk if we're getting drunk.
Right. I think Theo Vaughn is the only one that doesn't. Because he's sober now, so I think it wouldn't be appropriate. But
they didn't have did they have cocktails on the Daily Wire, or was it just cigars?
Well, I could
had
see.
cigar.
I didn't see anybody drinking.
Okay.
I did see like the insulated cups, the metal insulated cups. I'm assuming that's water or coffee. It's none of my business. What am I, a cop? And then in the background, I did see shelves with the bottles of it appeared to be alcohol, on it. I don't know if Ben, I don't know if he partakes in alcohol or not. I've never seen him smoke. Maybe he does. I just don't know why.
I didn't see him with the cigar.
I don't know why everybody has to do that thing that Rogan really is famous for. I just, leave that to Rogan, in my opinion. Because number one, I'm jealous. Number two, we have to hide it. We can't tell anybody we're drinking.
Right, exactly.
We tell people on the air that we're not drinking, when clearly everybody listening knows they must be drinking.
We have no management on site,
right?
So they trust us,
right?
So of course we abuse that trust.
We abuse the trust
and,
completely.
We drink, we smoke,
right, exactly. Check but don't verify. This is trust but don't trust, really. Don't verify. It's none of your business. What are you, a cop? Those are that's our motto. We don't need management looking in on us.
That's our motto. What are you, a cop?
What are you, a cop? Trust but verify. What are you, a cop?
Man, I loved that.
Martin Mull.
Martin Mull,
Martin
pharmacist on 2.5 Men.
Just comedy. I've been really focused on this. Look, my first words were probably ha ha ha. I love comedy. I always have my whole life. And the silly comedies, I'm pretty stoked about Netflix doing Happy Gilmore 2. I like Adam Sandler. I like his approach to comedy. By the way, his new stand-up special is pretty funny. Not clean comedy, by the way, but he did a stand-up special on Netflix. But I like the silly comedies. John Cena has done a couple of comedy movies on Amazon. Ricky Kanicki, I think is if I've got that name right, which is hilarious. And then one that he did with Aquafina called Jackpot. And both, again, silly comedy. They're just silly comedies. And that's what I liked about Martin Mull. He was just all out silly, smarmy comedy. And now I find myself seeking that out. And it's and Vince Vaughn talked about it recently when he was on Hot Ones about, basically, people just go along with the formula because they don't want to get fired. That's why there are not many R-rated comedies that are just silly like he's done in the past. It's different coming out of Hollywood. I'm hoping that will change.
When he died, I went back. It was I forgot what streaming channel it was on, but FM was on.
Yeah, Martin Mull. Yeah,
the movie FM.
Yeah.
From the was that the mid 70s, late 70s, maybe 77, 78, maybe
late 70s.
And as somebody being in radio, or if you've ever seen the movie FM, it was supposed to be like this eclectic prog rock station.
78, yeah.
78. Right. And so it's supposed to be like this eclectic prog rock alternative station. Well, the most eclectic music that they played was Petty, and then they had in the background the Outlaws, Green Grass, and High Tides. Everything else was basically yacht rock.
Yeah.
And I'm like, we're the rebel station. You're playing damn yacht rock.
Well, here's the soundtrack,
about?
The actual soundtrack to the movie FM. All right? Side one. I love that. Okay. Look, if you're under the age of 80, we had two different sides. Actually, this is a double album, so there were 4 sides on this one. So side one, FM, Steely Dan, which was the title track.
Right.
Basically. No static at all. Night Moves, by the way, I love that. No static at all. Hey, it's the best thing. No static at all. Hey, look at these compact discs. They can't scratch. Fly Like an Eagle, Steve Miller Band. Cold as Ice, Foreigner. Breakdown, Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. Bad Man by Randy Meisner. Life in the Fast Lane, the Eagles Do It Again, Steely Dan. Lido Shuffle, Boz Scaggs. More Than a Feeling, Boston. Tumbling Dice by Linda Ronstadt. Poor, Poor, Pitiful Me by Linda Ronstadt. Jimmy Buffett, Livingston, Saturday Night. Dan Fogelberg, There's a Place in the World for a Gambler. Just the Way You Are by Billy Joel. I mean, which is a great song, but I mean, it's not, this isn't cutting edge.
But remember, they were such a eclectic sort of prog rock alternative station,
like a pirate radio,
right? Like a pirate radio station that they were, they were almost an underground radio station. I'm like, you're a yacht rock station for God's sake.
Side 4, Your Smiling Face by James Taylor. Don't let your parents find out about that one. They'll burn the album. Wow.
And the thing is,
all great songs, by the way.
When I went to see it in the movie theater back in '78, I didn't recognize that.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
It took like till the last time I watched it, and I went,
I got to look into this Billy Joel character.
This wasn't
I might even get a tattoo after that one.
I think the coolest thing was when they were interviewing a young Tom Petty.
Yeah.
Because he really didn't have any of his major hits at that point.
Well, and we didn't know where to put him because of the sound of his voice, but he also had a really, a rock guitar sound, Mike Campbell and Tom. But his voice, as we moved out of the late 70s into the early 80s, it was like, okay, is he new wave? It was kind of like the Cars.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do we do with these? What do we do with these artists? Where do they belong? But yeah, that's when
I remember is Petty and Van Halen came out at the same time, and we were going.
Yep.
We liked both, but it was like we couldn't put them in a genre.
Right. It was hard to. Yeah.
Yeah, that was. So...
It's if only we had the back then. You have to develop that, but I mean, I remember putting the headphones on the stereo in Del Rio. My brother brings home the Van Halen album, the first one, and I put on the album, and Eruption starts, and I'm wearing headphones. And it's a lot like Back to the Future, the movie. But it's, my brain is melting. I mean, I'm going, what?
Yeah, what is it? Yeah.
What is this? Yeah. But, I mean, all those artists, though, that we just named, I mean, because you kind of don't know until there's some time and, and everything's in the rearview mirror and you go, wow. I heard Steely Dan at Home Depot, like, I don't know, about a year ago, walking through the store, and I'm like, man, that was a great album. That was such a great album. Why didn't I buy that album? But it was because we were hearing everything on the radio. You know?
No, yeah, you're right.
You were either hearing album rock and they were playing some of the deeper cuts, or you were hearing the hits on Top 40 radio.
You know what made the most impact to me in the movie? When they fired Alex Karras.
Oh, yeah.
Remember, he was the midday guy who didn't fit any of the cowboy hat on. He goes, They said, you don't fit in our basically eclectic format. You're a yacht rock station.
Right,
We
right.
can get you a job at the country station over here.
Right. By the way, he was perfect for that role.
He was, yes, because he came off as very meek, like, I can't believe you're firing me.
Yeah.
I thought I fit into this eclectic yacht rock format.
Mongo would just want to play music. Oh, no.
Mongo just want.
Different movie. Different movie. I loved Alex Karras. Mongo just want to play his songs.
Mongo want to play yacht rock.
Mongo like yacht rock. Blazing, if FM and Blazing Saddles melded. That's what they got to do. Quit doing the remakes or sequels. Someone go do like
Hybrid.
a mesh
Hybrid.
of some great comedy movies. That would be great.
FM meets Blazing Saddles.
Exactly.
Oh,
Blazing Saddles meets Jaws.
Well, wait a minute. Wasn't Cleavon Little in an FM?
Was he? Was he in?
Was he?
Hold on a second.
Yes. He was the Prince of Darkness.
That's
Yes.
right.
Wow.
Yes.
We didn't even put that one together.
Yes.
We
Wow.
didn't even put that
Okay.
one. Wow.
That must have been, And
Wow.
and Alex
Wow.
Karras.
It fits perfectly.
Yeah, there you
Cleavon
go.
Little, the sheriff DJ.
There you go. There you go. Perfect.
866. We'll get back to some serious topics sometime here.
Why not?
866-90-RED-EYE.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. All right, so where does it go from here? And we're talking about the campaign. I don't think much changes. I don't know if there'll be another debate. I don't know if another debate will make any difference right now, because I think that the problem right now, and we'll get more into it following the top of the hour, I think the biggest problem is not for Trump. He's a known quantity. Everybody knows who Trump is. Go through the headlines right now.
Yeah.
Look at the headlines right now. Everything is questioning, where does Harris stand? The thing is, again, I will repeat this as we've said over and over again, your goal in a campaign is to always put the other side on the defensive.
Right. Yeah.
And the Harris campaign's on the defensive. Why won't she speak? I mean, I'm just looking at all the different headlines out there, even in the major news media. Well, the pundits liked her, but the undecided voters haven't. Why? Because they don't know where she stands.
Exactly what we said.
Right. And so she's on the defensive still, that nobody knows where she stands. Trump, everybody knows where he stands. Those independents that were interviewed, every one of them said, well, we know what Trump's going to do. I don't need to know the specifics of Trump.
By the way,
because he's already done it.
They nailed it. They nailed it. And I think our analysis and breaking it down, hearing those comments, seeing the numbers after the debate, there's no way around the fact that, again, people are screaming, who's going to fix this? And more, they're looking at it going, she's not going to fix it. She's not going to fix it. There's no confidence that she will. I don't know how the numbers are so tight on the polls. Not that I believe the polls, but movement in the polls and everything else. Or are people lying to the pollsters? Are the pollsters right now manipulating numbers? I don't trust anything right now.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.